Hello and welcome to another video of concept series. Today we are going to study a new chapter of class 6 history, that is traders, kings and pilgrims. We are continuing with the concept series. So let's get started. So chapter number 9, traders, kings and pilgrims. Jagini at the market. Jagini looked forward to fair in the village. Means she was trying to get into the fair in the village. She loved to see the touch the pots, the pans of shiny steel, bright plastic buckets, cloth printed with brilliant floral designs. Floral means the water designs, and clockwork toys, all of which came from the city. The men who spread out these wares came in buses and trucks and went back at the end of the day. Why were they always on the move? She wondered. Her mother explained that they were traders, people who bought things for where were made and sold them elsewhere. Means they were the traders who buy things from the manufacturer and then sold them on themselves. So, how to find about trade and traders? You read about the northern black polished ware. Yes, if you haven't watched the previous lectures of this concept series, please go and watch. It is on your YouTube channel. So, and I discussed about this NBPW. Why is it northern? Because it is found in the northern area of India. Okay, in chapter 8. Okay, this fine poetry, especially bowls and plates, were found from several archaeological sites throughout the subcontinent. How do you think it reached these places? Traders may have carried them from the places where they were made to sell to at other places. South India was famous for gold, spices, especially pepper, and precious stones. Pepper was particularly valued in the Roman Empire. Okay, please understand this, so much that it was known as the black gold. So traders carried many of these goods to Rome in ships across the sea and by land in caravans. Like a bullock cart, you can understand. Caravans or bullock carts. There must be have been quite a lot of trade, as many Roman gold coins have been found in South India. Okay, so understand this. Now, a poem about trade. We can find evidence of trade in the Sangam poems. Here is one of which describes the goods brought into Puhar, an important port on the east coast. Please underline this. The question can come like this. Name one important port on the east coast. So you have to answer that Puhar is the important port. Okay. So you can read this. The poem is poem from the Sangam poems. Sangam is a collective of poems. Okay. So now, traders explored several sea routes. Some of these followed the coasts. There were others across the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, where sailors took advantage of the monsoon winds to cross the seas more quickly. So one question can come from here. Why do the traders chose Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal to move across as several sea routes? Why did they choose Arabian Sea and Bengal? The answer will be because of they took the advantage of the monsoon winds to cross seas more quickly. So if they wanted to reach the east-western coast of the subcontinent from the East Africa of Arabia, they chose to sail with the southwest monsoon, and sturdy ships had to be built for these long journey. Sturdy means hard. Okay. So here sturdy meaning is hard. Now, new kingdoms along the coast. The southern half of the subcontinent is marked by a long coastline with hills, especially the Western Ghats hills that are talking about. Plateaus, Indian Plateau, Deccan Plateau, and river valleys. Amongst the river valleys, that of the Kaveri in the south is the most fertile in. Okay, chiefs and kings who control the river valleys and the coast become rich and powerful as traders want to use that coast. So the rulers who rule nearby the coast will try to generate income from these traders. So, for example, if a trader come to the coast of a king, the king would ask for some mandatory payment and will then allow the trader to use that port. So these kings become rich and powerful in terms of money as well. Okay. Sangam poems mention the Movendar. This is a Tamil word meaning three chiefs. Please underline this. Three chiefs used for the heads of three heads of the three ruling families. Okay. The Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. Please underline this. Movendas is a Tamil word used for three ruling families, the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas, who become powerful in South India around 2300 years ago. Each of these three chiefs had two centers of power, one inland and one on the coast. One inland is meaning that is surrounded by land on all the sides, and on the coast you know the meaning of the coast. Okay, of these 6 cities, 2 are very important. Puhar, an important coast that I mentioned earlier on the east coast, and Kaveri Pattanam, the port of Cholas. Please underline this. Cholas port is Kaveri Pattanam, and the Madurai, the capital of Pandyas. The question can come from this paragraph that name one port of Cholas and name the capital of Pandya. So it is a very important paragraph. Please underline this. The chiefs did not collect regular taxes. Instead, they demanded and received gifts from the people. Okay. They also went on military expeditions and collected tribute from neighboring areas. Okay. They were kept some wealth, distributed the rest among their supporters, including members of the family, soldiers and poets. Okay. Many poets whose composition are found in the Sangam collection composed poems in praise of these chiefs, who often rewarded them with precious stones, gold, horses, elephants, chariots and fine cloth. Means the ruler of these areas will, as they did not collected the regular taxes. Instead, they received gifts, demanded for the people to become their army, went on military expansions, collected tribute from the neighboring states, okay, and distributed the rest of the wealth to the supporters and the poets who praised the chiefs in the Sangam poetry, and then the chiefs rewarded them with the precious stones, etc. and etc. Around 200 years later, a dynasty known as Satvahans become powerful in the western India. The most ruler of Satvahans was Gautamiputra Sri Satakarni. Please underline this. Gautamiputra Sri Satakarni. We know about him from an inscription composed on the behalf of his mother, Gautami Balashri. He and other Satavahan rulers were known as lords of Dakshin Path. Okay, so this Gautami Putra Sri Satakarni was known as the lord of Dakshini Path, literally the route leading to south, which was used as a name for the entire southern region. He sent his army to the eastern, western and southern coast. Means that Gautami Putra Sri Satkarni and other Satavahan rulers ruled this route leading to the south, Dakshin Path, okay, and control that entire region. The story of the silk route. The rich, glossy colors of silk, as well as its smooth texture, make it a highly valued fabric in most societies. Okay, making silk is a complicated process. Raw silk has to be extracted from cocoons of silkworms, spun into thread and then woven into cloth. This is the procedure of making of the silk cloths. Okay, techniques of making silk were first invented in China around 7,000 years ago. While the method remained a closely guarded secret for thousands of years, means they did not disclose the method to make silk. Okay, some people from China who went on distant lands on foot, horseback, on camels, carried silk with them. The path they followed came to be known as the Silk Route. So in this paragraph, they given that since China did not disclose the making of the silk cloths, the so the here is written the travelers from China who went on distant lands on foot or horse or on camels carried silk with them. So the route they took to go to other places, that route is came to be known as the Silk Route. And from the Indian kingdom, one kingdom, Kushanas were the important kingdom who controlled some part of the Silk Route, and those kingdoms who control the part of the Silk Route become very strong because it is a major route for the trade and cultural exchange. Sometimes Chinese rulers sent gifts of silk to rulers in Iran and West Asia, and from there the knowledge of silk spread further west. Okay, about 2000 years ago, wearing silk became the fashion amongst rulers, rich people in Rome. Means from China, the silk reached to the Rome and Europe and Africa. It was very expensive as it had to be brought all the way from China along dangerous roads through mountains and deserts. People living on the route often demanded payments for allowing traders to pass. As I mentioned earlier, that king that ruled some parts of the Silk Route demanded for the payment for allowing traders to pass through. Okay, which shows the Silk Route and its branches. The map is shown on page 77. You can take a look at that. Some kings tried to control large portion of the route. This was because they could benefit from taxes. I told earlier that there's tributes and gifts that were brought by traders and traveling along the route. In return, they often protected the traders who passed through their kingdoms from attacks by the robbers. Okay, the best known of the ruler who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas, I told earlier, who ruled over Central Asia, Northwest India around 2000 years ago. Their two major centers of powers were Peshawar in present-day Pakistan and Mathura. Takshashila was also included in the kingdom. Takshashila, during their rule, a branch of Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaports to the mouth of river Indus, means to the Pakistan and India, especially Jammu and Kashmir, from where silk was shipped westwards to the Roman Empire. The Kushanas were among the earliest rulers of the subcontinent to issue gold coins. Okay, Kushanas were one of the first who issued gold coins. These were used by the traders along the Silk Route. Okay, as the spread of Buddhism, one diagram is given. Okay, so a sculpture from the stupa at Sanchi. Look at the tree and the empty seat below. So this is the tree and this is the empty seat. This is the tree. Let me highlight it for you. This is the tree and this is the empty seed they're mentioning. Okay, so sculptors carved this to indicate that Buddha had attained enlightenment while meditating under the tree. So the spread of Buddhism we'll going to read. This is a sculpture found at Sati that this is a tree in the Bodh Gaya, and Buddha attained the enlightenment, and below this tree and beside there were the devotees of the Buddha. Okay, so the most famous Kushana ruler was Kanishka, who ruled around the 1900 years ago. He organized a Buddhist council where scholars met and discussed important matters. Ashwaghosha, a poet who composed a biography of the Buddha. Biography, I hope you know, biography is of a person is someone that is wrote by another person describing the life of the person. Here in this example, Ashwaghosha wrote a biography of the Buddha, means he described the life of Buddha by writing a book. And autobiography, the autobiography means auto, right, written by self. So if someone writes an autobiography of his life, it is written by himself only. The Buddha Charitra, the biography of Buddha was called Buddha Charitra, lived in his court. So Ashwaghosha lived in the court of Kanishka. Ashwaghosha and other Buddhist scholars now began writing in Sanskrit. Okay. A new form of Buddhism known as Mahayana Buddhism now developed. This had two distinct features. Okay. Earlier, the Buddha present was shown in a sculpture by using certain signs. For instance, his attainment of enlightenment was shown by sculptures of the people tree. So they are saying before earlier the Buddha was not given like his statue, but instead they given the tree, okay, and the seat, and told the Buddha attained enlightenment in this place like this figure, okay. Now the statues of the Buddha were made. Many of these were made in Mathura while others were made in Takshashila. So in this paragraph they are explaining, they're trying to explain that Buddha's presence was shown in two major forms. First, in the form of the sculptures where the tree and the place where Buddha attained enlightenment was given, and second is the statue of the Buddha. The second change was a belief in bodhisattvas. Okay, these were supposed to be persons who had attained enlightenment. So, plain language, question can come like meaning of the bodhisattvas. Topics of relevance from the general studies paper 1, that is history. Okay, so once they attained enlightenment, they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. Those who have attained enlightenment. However, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of bodhisattvas, the one who has attained enlightenment, become very popular and spread throughout Central Asia, China, and later to the Korea and Japan. Before moving further, I want to tell you about the notebook lm.google.com. It is a very good app that makes your notes very comprehensive, in which they are included the AI video or AI generated audio. It's a very comprehensive tool for making your notes or giving your notes a next level. I also use this notebook LM, so you must try this app. This is free of cost for all the students. It includes very many features like AI video I told earlier, AI audio I told earlier, the map based, the quiz, etc. So I recommend every student to try this notebook lm.google.com. It is an app generated by Google, a very comprehensive, good app that makes your notes makes your notes next level. Let's continue with the chapter now. Buddhism also spread to western and southern India, where dozens of caves were hollowed out of hills for monks to live in, as we have studied one seen in the figure in the chapter number 8. So that's the same they're talking about. Some of these caves were made on the orders of the kings and the queens, others were merchants and farmers. These were often located near passes through the Western Ghats, okay, along the western coastal line. Roads connecting prosperous ports on the coast with cities in the Deccan ran through these passes. Traders. So these two images are given here. Below left, an image of Buddha from Mathura. So this is the second type of thing that they made the statue of Buddha. And right, an image of the Buddha from Takshashila. So this is from the Takshashila and this is from the Mathura. Look at these and note the similarities and differences that you may find. Okay. So now, traders probably halted in these cave monasteries during their travels. Okay. So a cave at Karle, Maharashtra. This is a given. So you can look at this, okay. Buddhism also spread southeastwards to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and other parts of Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, okay. So the older form of Buddhism, known as Theravada Buddhism, was more popular in these areas, in the southeastern areas. The quest of the pilgrims. As traders journey to distant lands in caravans and ships, pilgrims often travel with them. The best to know, pilgrims are men and women who undertake journeys to holy places in order to offer worship. This is a glossary is given, okay. The best known of these are the Chinese Buddhist pilgrims Fahian, who came to the, this whole paragraph, subcontinent about 1600 years ago. Zhuangzang, who came around 1400 years ago, and I I King, who came about 50 years after Zhuangzang. Okay, they came to visit places associated with the life of the Buddha, as you studied in the chapter number 6, as well as famous monasteries. Okay, each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote of the dangers they encountered on their travels, which often took years of the countries and monasteries that they visited, and the books they carried back with them. So these are the literary accounts wrote by these traveler account, who told the people what dangers they faced during the travel, what they have studied, what they have saw in the monasteries, and the what they have learned about the Buddha's life. And they took some books back to China. They spread the Buddhism in China as well, and as well as they left some book in the India also about their accounts. Okay, so next. Fayan returned to China. Fayan began his journey back home from Bengal. Okay, he boarded a ship belonging to some merchants. They had barely traveled for 2 days when they were caught in a storm. Okay, the merchants began throwing their merchandise overboard as to lighten the load and save the ship from sinking. Fayan threw away his Miyaga means little personal belongings, but clung to his books and the statues of Buddha that he had collected. Finally, the storm subsided after 13 days. This is how he described the sea. So this is written by Fayan from here to here. The sea itself is boundless in extent. It is impossible to know east or west except by observing the sun, moon, or stars in their motions. If it is dark, rainy weather, the only plan is to steer by the wind. It took him for more than 90 days to reach Java, a place in Indonesia, where he halted for 5 months before boarding another merchant ship that took him to China from South China Sea. Okay, try and trace the route Fayan took on map 6. So it is easy. First, he started from Bengal, Bay of Bengal, then he from the passing the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, he went to Indonesia, place in Java. He halted for 5 months and then boarded another sea from the Indonesia to China through South China Sea. Okay, Zhuangzang, the next traveler who took the land road back to China through the northwest and Central Asia, carried back with him statue of the Buddha made of gold, silver, and sandalwood, and over 600 manuscripts. Can you believe that? Loaded on the backs of 20 horses, over 50 manuscripts were lost when the boat on which he was crossing the Indus capsized, sank. He spent the rest of his life translating the remaining manuscripts from Sanskrit to Chinese. Okay? So that manuscripts were in Sanskrit. Please underline this. Now, Nalanda, a unique center of Buddhist learning. Zhuangzang and other pilgrims spent their time studying in Nalanda, Bihar, the most famous Buddhist monastery of the period. This is how they describes it. Okay, the teachers are men of the highest ability and talent. They follow the teachings of the Buddha all in sincerity. The rules of monastery are strict. Everyone has to follow them. Discussions are held throughout the day, and the old and the young mutually help one another. Learned men from different cities came here to settle their doubts. The gatekeeper asked new entrants difficult questions. If they answered, then only they allowed them to enter. They allowed to enter only after they have been able to answer these. 7 or 8 of every 10 are not able to answer. Means only 2 or 3 out of 10 were able to answer them. Okay. So now another topic came the beginning of bhakti. The diagram is given here. Please see this diagram. Image Vishnu as Varaha, an image from Iran, Madhya Pradesh. This magnificent statue of a special form of Vishnu, the Varaha of Boar. According to the Puranas, Vishnu took the shape of boar in order to rescue the earth which had sunk into water. Here the earth is shown as woman. Okay, so this is a woman. This, please. Okay. Now, the beginning of bhakti. It was also a time when the worship of certain deities, which had become a central feature of later Hinduism, gained in importance. These deities included Shiva, Vishnu, and goddess such as Durga. Okay, say this topic is just telling how the bhakti movement start in India. These deities are worshipped through bhakti, an idea that become very popular at this time. Bhakti is generally underline this. Okay, bhakti is generally understood as a person's devotion to his or her chosen deity. Anybody, whether rich or poor, belonging to so-called high or low caste, man or woman, could follow the path of bhakti regardless of their gender, status, caste, or anything else. The idea of bhakti is present in the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred book of Hindus, which is included in the Mahabharata. Okay, in this, Krishna, the god, asks Arjuna, his devotee and a friend, to abandon all dharmas and take refuge in him, as only he can set Arjuna free from every evil. Okay, this form of worship gradually spread to different parts of the country. Those who follow the system of the bhakti emphasize the devotion and individual worship. See, from this topic, at least one question will surely become define bhakti movement or how bhakti movement spread in India. Okay, so please learn this topic understand the topics very clearly. So, bhakti emphasizes the devotion and the individual worship of a god or goddess rather than the performance of the elaborate sacrifices. According to this system of belief, if a devotee worships the chosen deity with a pure heart, wholeheartedly, the deity will appear in the form of which he or she may desire. So, this system of belief shows that if a devotee worships the chosen god with a pure heart, then the form in which the devotee desire for the god will come in front of him or her if he worship that deity with a pure heart. So the deity could be thought as of human beings, lion, tree, or any other form. Once this idea gained acceptance, artists made beautiful images of these deities. Okay? Bhakti comes from Sanskrit meaning bhaj, means to divide or share. This suggests an intimate two-way relationship between the deity and the devotee. So this is the birth of this word bhakti is given. A poem Bhakta. This poem you can read on yourself. Now because the deities were special, these images of the deity were often placed within the special home places that we describe as temples. We will learn more about these temples in chapter 11. Bhakti inspired some of these best expressions in art, sculpture, poetry, and architecture. The word Hindu, like the term India, is derived from the river Indus. It was used as the Arabs and Iranians to refer people who lived in the east of the river and the cultural practices, including the religious beliefs. See, one more theory about the Hindus is that the people who live around in the region around the Indus is known as Sindh. Okay, so in the Iranian language there is no letter like S. So instead of S they used to say H. So they said Sindh as Hind, and Sindhus, the people who lived in Sindh, as Hindus. That's why the term Hindu come. And these Hind is the derivation of the term of Hindustan. Okay, so now, so this is the this is the story of Outfare from India. So you can read this on your own. So this is the end of a chapter. Now the matching is given. So match the following: Movendar, Chola, Chera, Pandya. Okay, we studied lords of the Dakshinapatha. Lord of Dakshinapatha, who were them? The Satvahan rulers. Gautamiputra, Sri Satakarni. Ashwaghosha, he was a Even Mahayana Buddhism, Buddha Charitra, he wrote Buddha Charitra. So this will be the answer. So Zhuangzheng, a Chinese pilgrim. So we are left with Bodhisattvas. These are Mahayana Buddhists. These are Mahayana Buddhists. So this is the matching. This is the answer of matchings. Please learn these keywords: trader, Movenda, root, silk, Kushanas, Mahayana, Theravada, Bodhisattva, pilgrim, and Bhakti. Okay. So now you have to answer these questions, exercise questions, in the comment section. Now, if some important dates: discovery of silk making about 7,000 years ago. Okay. So, the Chola Chera Pandya, the Movenda about 2,300 years ago. The growing demand for the silk in the Roman Empire about 2,000 years ago. Kanishka, the famous Kushana ruler, about 1900 years ago. Okay. Fayan comes to India about 1600 years ago, and Zhuangzang comes to India. Apar composes devotional poems in praise of Shiva and took back the manuscripts in Sanskrit. Okay, so this is the end of your chapter number 9, Traders, Kings and Pilgrims. Thank you so much for watching. Please answer the exercise question in comment section. And if you have any question, please ask them in the comment section only. And I have given some extra questions in every video in the given in the description box. So please try to solve these questions also. Please like and share this lecture and subscribe to our channel, Shailja Classes. Thank you for watching. Please watch our previous videos that were already uploaded in the YouTube channel. Thank you.